Welcome back, players and collectors, to my channel, Ren's Collectibles. If you're new here, I'm Ren, and today we have a fun video because we are not only doing a Nostalgix deck tech, but we're doing a fun themed one. I'm kind of getting away from the traditional, let's build decks to grind out your opponent and just slap them around and go for gold. We're going to do it in kind of a fun way. What I mean by all this is we are making themed decks. Now, I'm not talking about themed decks that you'll find in Pokemon and Magic the Gathering, but we're talking about true themed decks. And in particular, this one today we're going to be doing is the Dark Forest theme deck. So, as the name implies, we are building a deck that is going to be completely based around a theme centered on the Dark Forest, So I kind of try to look at all the Nostalgix cards in the base set and figure out what would fit the vibes and the theme of a Dark Forest. And this is what I came up with. Starting off with the hero, we had none other than Dr. Corvus. I mean, look at him. Come on. If that doesn't just scream Dark Forest vibes, then I don't know what does. But to be honest, I had a hard time because you want the deck to do well and you want to win. And I was really stuck between him and Nakira, but Nakira just didn't fit the theme. So I had to go with Dr. Corvus. And honestly, it turned out pretty good. So Dr. Corvus has once per turn, you may pay 1 mana equal to a fighter's cost to give them a second attack this turn. And this really helps once you get the baseline of fighters and things down. Second up on this is Demel. So this is the main line of the deck here. Demel is the apple. It's the venomous dark apple. And of course, what else are you going to find in a dark forest except for dark apples, right? So we have the whole Demel line, actually. We're going to start with 4 Demels. And by the way, these are super easy and very playable because they are 1-drops. So first turn, you could have one of these, slap them into the field of play, and go. It has Infectious Touch, which does 1 damage, and its ability, Lifesteal, is when this fighter deals damage, heal it by the same amount. Pretty good ability, if you ask me. Next up, we have its evolution, Sakor. I was like, I had 4 of them. Where'd the 4th one go? It's just stuck to the back of the card. It's actually kind of hot in my room right now. It's a little muggy, so it might be condensating just a little bit. But we have Sakor in here with Lifesteal as his ability again, and Applejack does 4 damage to a fighter, and then its ability of the attack is deal 1 damage to another opponent's fighter. Very good, especially if your opponent has tokens, which I encounter quite often when I play. A lot of people play token decks, and it's a 4-drop. It's very easy. You just got to get a 1-drop down. You slap a 4-drop on top of it. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, or in this case, apple squeezies. Bruh. But you get the drift here, because we are moving on to its final evolution, which is Appleth. So, again, Lifesteal as its ability, but it's got 2 attacks. Eve of Rot, which does 10 damage and deal 2 damage to another opponent's fighter. Repeat this effect for each apple you control. Or you can do Apple Slice, which summon 2 1 health, 1 attack, Lifesteal apple tokens. So you get your opponent on the brink here. You kind of wipe their board. You're in control of the game. Doing a couple Apple Slices is most likely going to benefit you in the biggest way possible because you get more return for it in the end. But if you're looking to just come back and clear some board space, then doing 10 damage to just about any fighter is going to bring it very close, if not knock it out. So pretty good. The drop between 4 and 9, a little steep, but we have something that might remedy that later on in the deck. But for now, we are going to move on to Stumpkin, the next fighter line we're going to have in here. Now, Stumpkin is very big for this deck because, again, he fits the theme. He's a tree. Can't have a dark forest without a tree. But he's a 2-drop, very low cost, and his ability is Taunt, which means fighters with Taunt must be attacked before non-taunt tokens, or targets, excuse me. So you got an Appleth out there and you got a Stumpkin out there. They're going to have to take out the Stumpkin before they can get to your Appleth. Very big because it kind of gives you a little bit of a wall. Tokens, who needs them? You got Stumpkin. All right, next up, we have Treadin, the second form of Stumpkin. So he evolves into Treadin, and this is a big one. So he goes from a 2-drop, 3 health to a 6-drop, 10 health, and it still retains Taunt. So if you get a Stumpkin out and you are able and fortunate enough to evolve it into Treadin, you are doing pretty good. You got yourself a pretty sturdy wall there. And again, it's going to take something like an Aplith that we seen earlier or some other high-powered fighter to take it out. Or if you're unlucky enough, they have Tower Fall, you have a lot of cards in your hand. But the chances of you having 10 cards in your hand and them having a Tower Fall, I'd say are pretty slim. So you're good on this. But you get 1 or 2 of these out, and you're swinging big. You got a big wall in front of you. And just for effect, same reason like I said with Aplith earlier, there's a way to get to them a little bit quicker than you might think. And we have that for Garrot Bloom as well, because it's a 10-drop, which is really steep for the cost. But if you can get one of these out, it is well worth it. It's got Taunt, Earth Shatter, which does 9 damage, and Nurturing Father, which also does 9 damage, and deal 5 damage to this fighter to heal 4 life from each of your other fighters. So very, very good. And honestly, when he's got 15 health, you got some injured fighters out there, Nurturing Father is a big boost. Next up on the line, we have Night Owl. Now this one, you know, it's getting a little bit, you're kind of getting out there a little bit more to find fighters that fit the Dark Force theme. But come on, Night Owl, you got trees in the forest, you got to have animals in them. It's got to be Night Owl. And honestly, Night Owl is a solid fighter. Now this thing has come in to save me a few times when playing this deck, and to be honest, this right here, the Night Owl, was almost the star of the show in a couple matches. So a must have, a really good fighter for a 5-drop. It's a mid-game fighter, but its ability is you may discard 1 card from your hand once per turn to heal 2 life from a fighter, or deal 2 damage to a fighter. So you got full health on your side of the board, you need to knock something out, you can deal 2 damage to something. Some of your fighters are taking some hits and you need to heal up a little bit before you finalize anything before you end turn. That is a solid ability to heal something. You get 2 of these out there, you're doing good. Wide-Eyed Wonder also says heal 1 health from this fighter. So if he's damaged and he does the attack for 4 damage, then you get to heal as well. Mimicus. Now Mimicus is kind of the wild card here. It's a very dark themed fighter and card, so I think it still fits with the Dark Forest vibes here, and the fact that it's a treasure chest fighter. It's a fiend. First of all, it's a fiend. That's very good. That's what we want in that deck, that Dark Forest vibes, the dark theme there. But I just imagine, I kind of think back on all the games I used to play as a kid. You enter a Dark Forest, there's always treasure chests around. So Mimicus, in my mind, makes the cut here. And what a good fighter to include in it as well, right? So its ability is, if your opponent destroys a fighter of yours, stack it under this card instead of placing the fighter in the void, and give this fighter +2 health. Your opponent takes no prize counters for these fighters until they are removed. Until they remove Mimicus from play or destroy it. So you have one of these out and you knock out my Night Owl. I just stack the Night Owl under Mimicus. You do not get a prize token, and my Mimicus gets +2 health until you kill the Mimicus. Knock it out. Then you get your prize token and all that afterwards, but it's like an extra step for your opponent. It's another hurdle they have to jump in order to get something that they should have had. So it's very good to frustrate people with. Frustrate opponents with, and it also can save you in tight spots. But the last fighter we have in here again is a fiend. It's Cordy Slug. I mean, come on, it's a slug. It's a dark slug. 100% fits the theme. And its ability is, if Cordy Slug defeats a fighter, create a token clone of that fighter and place it under your control until the end of turn. It has 1 health and charge, which means that the fighter can attack immediately. It's got an attack here for Infectious Touch for 3. It's a 4-drop with 2 life, so it is very fragile. It's a glass cannon, and in certain cases, but you really want to put it out and play it just for its ability. That's the big key there. And come on, Dark Forest, you're thinking Dark Forest theme, and you have something that can create clones. Think of Pokemon, the first movie, when they clone all the trainers' Pokemon when they're meeting Mewtwo. They're all dark themed Pokemon, right? So what better way to include Cordy Slug into this deck? All right, next up, we got into some spells here with Keepers of the Peace. These are seriously just some staples in every deck. You just got to have, you need a little bit of wall. If you're drawing, you know, some of these fighters, especially the apples, and you can't get any kind of any kind of wall out there, you definitely want to have something that's going to provide you some shelter from the storm, if you will. And Keepers of Peace does that because you get to summon 2 5 health 2 attack mech tokens with taunt. So very, very needed in this deck, and I highly recommend it for pretty much every deck. Next up, we got Tower Fall. Deal damage equal to your opponent's hand size to all their fighters. Draw 2 cards. So this is big. This actually hurt me. My opponent has these cards. Well, my opponent I was playing when I was testing this deck had 4 Tower Fall in their deck, and pretty much every game they got a Tower Fall, and it does a lot of damage when you get hit with that. It's kind of devastating, but we've got a lot of counters around it. We've got a lot of ways to get around it in this deck. So it's not really a weakness, but it does hurt your opponent too, because most people try to gain cards as fast as they can. Slap this on the board, it could wipe your opponent's board, which is good for you. Next up, Sinking Feeling. Deal 1 damage to all enemy fighters, then bind them. Now, when I think of Dark Forest, I kind of thought, what's an ability? What's something that you would find in a Dark Forest? And to me, that was vines, and it was like this whole entanglement. Like when you think of Harry Potter, for example, and they go into the Dark Forest, they've got all these trees with big roots and vines and everything everywhere, and they get kind of like tangled and snared in them. And that is what I thought of when I seen some of these. So I'm like, bind. That would be a good ability to put in there for the theme. And honestly, Sinking Feeling is a really good one. Bind all of your enemy fighters and deal 1 damage to them. And then you have, if you want to go for the simplistic route here, Tunnel of Vines, which just is bind all enemy fighters. It's only 1 cost less than Sinking Feeling, but I feel like these are a lot easier to play, especially late game. If you're already at 10 mana and you're playing Sinking Feeling for 5, that's half your mana gone. If they have a nope in play, you kind of, you know, it can get iffy. But we also have Void Cast. We've got 2 of them actually in this deck, so you can select any spell in your Void and use it immediately at no additional cost. Now, just in case things are starting to go south and you're needing a little backup plan, those Void Casts are in there. But the ultimate backup plan is this right here, Divine Wrath. You got to have at least one of these in every single deck. It's a board wipe. Void all fighters in play. Neither player takes prize counters. So it hurts you as much as it hurts your opponent. But if you got nothing on the board and your opponent has 3 or 4 fighters, you've got literally nothing to lose. So it's a good board wipe. Reverse. We got 2 surprises here. 2 reverses, which negate a surprise's activation. And we have 2 nopes, which are counters to spells. So we go very, very light on the surprises in here, which I kind of thought, I don't know, you know, like you're going into a Dark Forest. It's supposed to be like ominous and you're supposed to be on your toes, right? And I kind of feel like traps should be everywhere. But we wanted to make the deck more viable for gameplay, and I felt like having a couple surprises in there was sufficient, because next up we've got some equipment, which is Team Uniform. So gain +1 attack for each fighter and token you have in play. And given that we've got some taunt tokens and some apples we can potentially create in the game, I figured this would be a good addition to maybe getting some extra damage out on the field. And then we also have Supermassive Slingshot. What come on, Dark Force theme. It's fast, it's heavy, and it hits hard. Nothing makes that even more pronounced than Supermassive Slingshot. You got some 1 and 2 drops coming out at you fast, and then they got Supermassive Slingshot, so they can start hitting you right away. Paired up with Dr. Corvus's ability to pay the additional mana cost to let a fighter attack again, you're just gonna start pummeling your opponent pretty fast. And then finally, we have 2 arenas, and they are different. So we have one mob arena, which allows you to essentially pay 2 mana and draw a 3 cost or less mana fighter from your deck and put it into your hand, which is very, very good if you are running out of fighters, or if you aren't just getting the draws necessary for fighters. It allows you to get some of these guys out quickly. And like I said, with Demo and with Stumpkin, they're very low cost, 1 and 2 cost respectively. You pull this out, you do two mana for that, you pull 1 out, and then you slap it down for a 3rd mana. You've already got a fighter out in play. Like it's that easy, it's that quick. So very good for us here, especially because this is a fast-paced deck. This is a deck that you want to get things out quickly, and you just want to get hammering away as fast as you can. The faster you can get this deck to roll, the better off you're going to be. And finally, we have Proving Grounds. Each player's fighters may evolve into any leveled up version of themselves directly without needing to follow the chain of evolution. So you got Demo out there, and you do not pull a Sakor, but you have Aplith in your hand. You put Proving Grounds out as a stadium or as an arena, and you can evolve it directly into Aplith without needing that middle evolution. Same for Stumpkin going into Grotbloom. You don't need that middle evolution for it. The only backfire or downside to this could potentially harm you is your opponent can use this as well. But in my game testing experience here, my opponents did not even utilize that. I was the only one that utilized it. So take that with a grain of salt. That's how it is. But that's the deck right there, ladies and gentlemen. And again, this is supposed to be a quick, heavy-hitting deck right from the beginning. You want to get things out there, and you want to get them going as fast as you possibly can. And Dr. Corvus definitely helps with that. I call it the double strike. You pay the mana cost of whatever the fighter is, and it allows you to attack again. Even when you're like mid-game and you've got, Mimikis or Sakor, where's Sakor at? Sakor out there, it's 4 costs. It's pretty low. You could tap twice with it, and that does 8 damage potentially to 1 fighter, plus 2 additional damage to opponent's fighters. You could be, that can be devastating. And in fact, when I was doing my gameplay testing with this deck went undefeated, and I actually went up against some pretty good decks. I built a Chrono Krios deck that hadn't lost until it played this deck here. So this deck can hold its own. I know I said it's all fun in games and all that, and we want to create some themed decks, but I also want to make them competitive, and that's what I feel like I did with this. Now, will this deck beat every other deck, and will you get a 100% win rate? No, it's not going to happen. But you can at least maintain a competitive stance and give people good games with this. If they misplay a hand and you are playing your hands pretty good, you have a decent shot at winning no matter what you're up against. So have a little bit of fun. Create some of your own theme decks. Let me know in the comment section down below what kind of deck you want to see next on a theme. I just very well may pick one of your guys' recommendations and build another deck around it. But let me know what you think also of this Dark Force themed deck. Would you pick it up and play it if you had it? And what are your thoughts to maybe improve it, or what do you see as some defenses for it or against it? But let me know in the comment section below. Also, if you haven't already, smash the like on this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because we do a lot of deck techs and gameplay. We're getting more into the gameplay stuff. I've got stuff recorded, I just haven't put out there yet. And we're doing some more openings, Nostalgix, Pokemon, you name it, we got it. We're going to do it. But Nostalgix is the name of the game here on this channel, for real. So let me know what you guys think. And that's all we got for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys in the next one.